VikesNow. I am Dustin Baker. We are at week 9, about at the season's halfway point. That's where we'll be after, let's see, Monday Night Football. Halfway mark. The Vikings are 5-2. Somehow, we kind of have a gloomy feeling about a 5-2 record, which is mind-boggling if we were to rewatch these show episodes from August, for example. But we're here with Sal Spice. Sal, 5-2 Vikings. How are you in general before we hop into the purple stuff?
Yeah, I know it's crazy to think because I totally agree with you. We would have been thrilled with this if we knew this a few months ago, but I'm feeling very apprehensive. Halloween was yesterday. I'm feeling a little spooked about this team.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there is so many self-inflicted mistakes that are happening. So especially the penalties are concerning me. I hope they can get it back on track, but this is the worst I've felt going into a game for sure.
Yeah. I told my friend Wes Johnson and Ken Johnson, who we talked about last week, leaving that game salty as F. I felt the same way about the team as I did entering week 1, where I was like, yeah, maybe they'll be frisky. I don't expect much. That's how I felt leaving SoFi Stadium. Whereas after I left US Bank Stadium following the Lions loss, I didn't feel one bit different than I did when I walked into that game. I'm pretty damn sure, Sally, that our apprehension, I guess it's shared, is derived from a 2016 meltdown and 2003 meltdown. If those never happened and those were void from our memory banks, we'd probably be like, no, we can get back on this. But it just feels like, God, this like quarterbacks named Sam, head coach in their third year, a defense that maybe overachieved, the week 6 bye week. It all feels way too damn eerie.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't considered it that way. I think right now I'm just so focused on what's to come. And my PTSD is not on that specifically. It's about Sunday night football and not necessarily. I know Joe Flacco isn't your typical backup quarterback, but I'm just having Cooper Rush
Mm-hmm.
feelings about this game. And I think that's my specific PTSD right now.
Well, it's in the same vein because it's irrational only because there's no reason that will happen except for that it's happened before,
Yeah.
separate coaching regimes and all that. But it's the exact same feeling I have about the 2016. I can't shake it because I lived through it. And
Yes.
all right, so after that shared apprehension, we have that. Let's get that on record. Do you tell me about the hopium that you might have, the shred of it after the loss to the Lions?
Well, I felt the exact same way as you. I didn't think that there is anything wrong with losing to the Lions, especially they played a close game and there was no shame in that. However, the way that they played against the Rams, it was so sloppy. I mean, all of those pre-snap penalties, it's just uncalled for. And I never felt like they were in that game. Even though it was pretty close, I never felt like they were going to step up and take the lead in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a different feeling than I've had about this. Well, of course, it's a different feeling than we've had about this team all year. And I want to chalk it up to, okay, it's Thursday night. Thursday nights are in general pretty sloppy for every team, just similar to London games. And I want to attribute it to that. But at the same time, I'm worried that there's little like micro fractures in the locker room. Don't want to read too much. I mean, the Jordan Addison thing, of course, there's conflicting messages on that. Does this mean anything? Does it not? But if it does mean something, then I feel scared that that's indicative of a bigger problem that may be breaking down in the chemistry. And that's the worst possible thing I think that can happen.
Well, I think I can put your fears at bay on Jordan Addison. That's free three is like his almost his
Is
nickname. Like it's his
Yeah,
motto. It's like LFG from Tom Brady. Like
right.
yeah, while we are not beneath or above, I should say, like cryptic wide receiver crap, I
Yeah.
don't think this is one of them. And he even said to Darren Wolfson, like people gotta do their homework. This isn't a trade request. But we did have the Darisaw adversity. Right before the first half ended, Darisaw tore his ACL and MCL, and now he's out probably. We'd normally say it till week 1 next year, but the way this team takes injuries, like the most cautious that you could possibly imagine. Give me
Hmm.
your Darisaw doldrums.
Well, that was the most devastating part of the game, right? I knew when he went out, this is serious. I saw Twitter chattering about, oh, this could only be a couple weeks. And I'm thinking, no. I mean, you saw the look on his face and the training staff's face. It wasn't like, oh, this is a little sprain. We're going to come back. That's the scariest part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm really happy that Kwesi went out and made that trade. I think that says a lot about where they think that they're at, especially the minimal what he gave up. But how is this going to work out? Is the chemistry on the offensive line, which we have been praying for I feel like as long as we can remember, are they going to be able to get some semblance of that back? That's the worst part of all of this, I think. Thankfully, we have a guy who loves to hang out in the pocket as long as possible. So if anybody can adapt to it, hopefully it's him.
Yeah, he certainly does that. He leads the NFL in sack percentage in a bad way. I don't know if that's an offensive line stat or a Sam Darnold stat, probably a combo. I'm a little bit surprised to hear you say that you liked the Cam Robinson trade because it did sacrifice a would-be fourth rounder from the 2026 piggy bank. There were some notable Vikings accounts that said this trade was silly. Tell me why you liked it. Is it because it was a season saver? Tell me the Cam Robinson details from you.
Well, I like it that for one, I think that it says for them, they know that they feel their window is open. And I like that they're being aggressive and seizing this moment if that's what they truly believe, for one. Also, it's not until 2026. I do have confidence that Kwesi is going to be able to get back in there with picks in 2026 by the time. I mean, well, I know we're already suffering in 2025. But I like the attitude. You're 5-2. You're only, you're close to the top of the division. The NFC is pretty much wide open right now. So I do like the aggressiveness for sure. And I don't think that they gave up that much, especially if they stuck the Jaguars with the majority of that salary.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But I mean, what are we going to get are we missing out on another Caleb Evans or something potentially? And Kwesi's been so good in free agency and finding undrafted free agents and things like that. He's done way better at that than drafting in general.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm not butthurt about it at all.
Indisputably, going and adding another Cam Robinson, is proof that they are in it to win it. They must have surveyed the NFC and said, hey, the Lions are damn good, but so are we. Because otherwise, if this was the 7-10, 8-9 season that we thought it would be 10 weeks ago, then you just ride it out with Quesenberry or you switch Brandel back to his organic spot. But no, this is absolute proof that they're like, damn it, we're not just going to lay over and die. And there are the bet hedges inside that deal. You mentioned the salary. The Vikings are only on the hook for $2 million, which is pennies in the NFL standard. And then nobody seems to care, or I guess understand that this will be factored into the compensatory pick equation.
Yes.
Because nobody expects Cam Robinson to stick around. I guess in theory he could if they got really funky, but I doubt it. So there are those bet hedges inside the deal that I think have to be considered, that when some of these guys walk in free agency, the compensatory formula for 2026 will be affected. So I too liked the gumption to go ahead and do that. Although I was content, or I was actually pretty steadfast that they're just going to stay organic. They have the two options in Brandel or Quesenberry. But they said no. All right, the Vikings are 5-point favorites in primetime against the Colts. What worries you about that matchup, in addition to what you've already said about the vibe isn't great?
Well, I was talking to you about this before we started. I was thrilled when they flexed this game. I was confused. Why are they choosing this one to flex? But I was thrilled for my own selfish reasons of the tailgating purposes. We have a Monday night game, but that's not really the same because the NFL doesn't let us, well, at least the Vikings don't let us start until like 2.5 hours before or something.
Oh, wow.
So I thought it's going to be super fun on Sunday. We can put the Lions Packers on. It'll be great. And now the weather looks like it's like an 80% chance of rain right now, which is terrible. So now I'm getting those spooks again, like I just said. I'm worried. It's the penalties, especially at home. They're still suffering with them there. I'm concerned about the defense. I would feel much better if it was Anthony Richardson, I think, because Joe Flacco, he's seen it all, right? Mm-hmm. And he's not going to be phased. He's not going to be freaked out by anything. He knows what he's doing, and he knows he's at the end of his career. He has nothing to prove. So I am concerned about that, especially, I mean, their top three wide receivers, they're all approaching 400 yards, which doesn't sound like that much, but half of those games they played with Anthony Richardson, who's rushing for a ton of yards. So I'm concerned. They've got three wide receivers who can break out and make some big plays. Do we have three guys that can cover cover them? I don't know.
And the Colts are also right there in the mix. So it's not like we're getting some 2-6 team that has mailed it in. There are a lot of 2-6 teams in the NFL, believe it or not. 10 teams have 2 wins or less. It's really weird.
Yeah.
But the thing that scares me the most, probably the only thing that really scares me about the Colts, is the offensive line of the
Yes.
Indianapolis Colts is the best in the NFL per PFF. We are coming off a game where the pass rush utterly sucked for no good reason. So in your get right game, you're playing the best offensive line in football. It's like not a
Yeah.
good mix. The penalties, I want to let folks know those are offensive penalties. I don't want the defense to
Yes.
get dragged. There's not like a litany of pass interference calls. It's pre-snap penalties that are murdering the Vikings right now. Second most pre-snap penalties in the league behind the Browns. And then I'm going to give you and the listeners my Joe Flacco speech. And this came when I was talking with Yannick Eckhart about this. He predicted this. He said, watch, they're going to bench Anthony Richardson and we have to play Flacco. And what I told him, and hopefully this reverberates, maybe it won't, is if the Vikings are at a spot where fans are like, shit, we got to play Joe Flacco, then the Vikings aren't shit anyway. Like it's not
True.
going to get much easier than him. He's immobile. He's going to be 40 in like 3 months. So while he's good, he has the Super Bowl ring. I know he'll probably have a decent game against the Vikings. Uh, the season has really fallen from grace if we're shivering and quivering over Joe Flacco coming to our house.
Well, it reminds me of those past times I mentioned Cooper Rush, Andy Dalton in
Yeah.
2020 coming
Every
in.
Cowboy game.
Yeah, yeah, and I believe that was prime time as well,
Yep.
possibly. And so those Sunday night games, other than was the 49ers game, I think last year was actually a Monday, so that doesn't count. But
Hmm.
the Sunday night ones, I don't at home. I've got that PTSD, so I'm concerned for sure. It's also that the Colts have played in all of their losses; they've been within 6 points. They've
Hmm.
only have, I believe, like a 14-point differential total in the 4 games that they've lost. So, I mean, it was most likely going to be close anyways. But that kind of scares me that they are able to, at the end of the games, make huge plays that take them over the edge for those wins.
Yeah, the listeners should know that these 4-4 Colts, we're not getting a bad football team. We're not getting one of the elite ones that we saw for the first month, but in terms of offense and defense, EPA per play, efficiency numbers, they're right in the middle of the league. So it's not like we're getting some shitty club. It's really that Anthony Richardson's raw performance has dragged them down. All right, is this Brian Flores led defense? Is this bad boy just in a 2-game rut, or has the son of a bitch been solved?
I mean, I refuse to believe that he's been solved and figured out. You know, it's like
Hmm.
after the Rams game, you see all of these tweets about, oh, Brian Flores, he gets sniffed out week 7 or week 8 every year. And it's like, you guys are the same people who were saying, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, give this man a lifetime contract and he's going to get swiped up to be a head coach. And this is going to be devastating. It's like, I mean, you got to give it more than 2 weeks to determine that. I think that he has shown throughout his career that he has enough creativity that if that actually is the case that he's got, then he is going to be able to adapt and hopefully with the 10-day break, come up with something for this team that is at least going to be efficient. I mean, obviously after the bye week, we didn't necessarily see that, but I, I just think that's a ridiculous take.
Yeah, there's some folks that have convinced themselves that Blake Cashman, Eden Prairie native, is an absolute god,
Yes.
because the defense just decided it wasn't going to be good anymore the moment he got hurt with turf toe, and it doesn't look like he's going to play again this week. I think the Vikings have faced two supreme play callers in Ben Johnson and I
Yes.
know in Sean McVay, and I don't know how the Rams just got their wide receivers healthy like the day the Vikings were ready to play them. And now Puka hurt his knee again. It's like, really, you just came back against the Vikings. I think it's a mix of that. And then I just don't understand. Like, if we would have went to the Rams house and the offense just meandered around, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Sam Darnold's the quarterback. But the fact the defense just couldn't get a single ounce of pass rush against an offensive line of the Rams that isn't renowned for being any good at all, that was really flummoxing. I don't think it's been solved. I think it will kind of bust out Like I said, though, it's a rough diagnosis or prognosis when you're playing the best offensive line in football by the numbers. All right, one more thing before we get to a prediction from you. Cam Akers came aboard about 17 days ago. Cam Robinson a few days ago. The Vikings don't have much 2025 draft capital to trade for anybody else, but the trade deadline is election day. What, 4 days from now?
Oh,
It's going to be a busy day. Do you foresee any other deals? Not necessarily ones that you want, but do you think Kwesi is done, or do you think he'll add somebody else?
I don't see how it's feasible, to
Hmm.
be honest with you, but he has surprised me before. So I'm definitely not going to rule it out. That move that they made for Cam Robinson shows where their head is at.
Hmm.
So I think if they see somebody become available that is going to take this team to another level or give them more depth that is significant in a position, because they're thin at corner and some, I mean, gosh, I'm sure they're thin more than that. That's just the one that coming to mind.
Hmm.
Then I can see them doing it. I really can. But uh, I don't know. What do you think? I think Kwesi could make it work if there's just a guy you got to have, but I don't know.
Yeah, so that's what I think on the latter. So the first trade they got was basically free for Cam Akers because of the pick swap part. The Cam Robinson was kind of an emergency trade. We don't want to swirl down the toilet, so we're going to trade for a left tackle who started 91 games. If we see one more trade, I'm going to say it's because the Vikings looked great against the Colts, and I think it'll be in that same vein of the Hawkinson trade where all you're really giving is pick swaps. You'll recall, I think the Vikings gave the Lions a second, but we took their third, and
Mhm.
then we gave them their third, we got their fourth. I think if they acquire one more player, it won't be a rental. It'll be for probably like a young cornerback, like Greg Newsome from the Browns, who Kwesi helped draft 3 years ago. It'll be for a long-term asset, just like Hawkinson, where you don't have to like give a single pick. So if it's like, all right, Travis Etienne, for example, they're not just going to give a third or fourth rounder alone. I think it'd be styled like that Hawkinson trade where you don't really lose any picks, you just lose some placement. I think that's what they'd be looking to do. On the whole, like gun to my head, I'd say 51% probably just stay put. But it wouldn't surprise me one iota if Kwesi lets the nuts dangle one more time here at the trade deadline. All right, I predict the Vikings to get back. I was wrong last week, so don't trust this guy. I predict the Vikings to get back on track, mainly because it's at home. I think they win 30-17. I think we see a
Ooh.
return of the defense, not necessarily hellfire like it was in the first, 5 games. What do you got with a score?
I hate it that I'm saying this. I absolutely hate it.
Oh no,
This is the first time,
you doing
obviously,
it?
obviously this season that I've said it, and I think last season I probably didn't even say it very much. I I'm really worried about it. I think that this is going to be an L if I had a gun to my head. I
Okay.
hope I'm wrong. And God, I don't. I'll just say it's going to be close. How about we'll say 26-24, something very nerve wracking
And
towards the end.
and the Colts take it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you
Well, that might be low. That actually is probably low. Let's go 34-31.
Well, you're proving what you said 15, 20 minutes ago about that apprehension. So I respect it because I wrote on Vikings territory, I think yesterday. To me, and you can tell me if this is fallacious, to me, this game is the almighty hinge of the season. If they win, whether it's a Reichard field goal or my prediction, 13 points, I think most of us will be like, sweet baby, we're back. If
Mm-hmm.
they lose, everybody, including me, are going to be like, this is exactly like 2016 with no exceptions.
Well, which is crazy because they were winning those games dominantly.
Yeah.
And we kept saying, this is not like 2016. This is dominant. These are not sloppy. These are not flukes. And it's really going to suck if we have to start saying that, but I totally get it because these especially this game is one that you should for sure win. I hope that Hawkinson back makes a big impact. It's hard to think that his first game back it's going to be that significant, but I hope that
Hmm.
I'm wrong about that. I'm very nervous. I'm very
Yeah.
nervous, but
If you think about the stakes or the implications, if they beat the Colts, and I'm gonna guess if they win, it's not by like some accidental fluke, like, oh my God, Reichert hit a 63-yard field goal. I think they'll win like by a touchdown or so. The 3-game road trip thereafter feels like, oh, we can handle that. Jaguars, Titans, I'm sure the Bears will be a pain in the ass. But if they lose, that road trip will feel almost insurmountable the way that things would have been going with the 3-game losing streak, which would be exactly like 2016. All right, enough poo poo about 2016. I've never asked you this, and I think listeners might be curious. Who's your favorite Vikings player right now?
Oh God, right now,
If you had to say, this guy is my dude, who is it?
honestly, it's probably Sam Darnold.
Is it
Which,
really? More so
yes,
than Harrison Smith?
yeah, I mean, of course, I love Harrison. Who
Mhm.
doesn't love Harrison? I respect his longevity with the team, his leadership, and how he's still been able to perform at a high level for so long. Of course, I love him, but me, I love a redemption story. I love gingers.
Mhm.
So I think I just have loved seeing Sam Darnold get these accolades and this attention. I hope that he can get. I hope he can get back on track so I can continue to say that. But other than him. Gosh, who else would it be? Cam Bynum. Also, I love
Okay.
Cam Bynum. I
Right
love the
on.
personality, the showiness. Yeah, it's great.
In support of Sam Darnold, that man is on pace for 3,900 passing yards, 34 touchdowns, and 12 picks. If that was JJ McCarthy's pace right now, we would be doing cartwheels. So everybody would. So the Vikings might have some warts right now, whether it's offensive penalties or the defense disappearing. Sam Darnold is not the Vikings' problem. Let's get that out there. All right, Sally, any closing arguments before we log off for the week?
Oh man. No, not necessarily. I will say I'm curious to see how Michael Pittman Jr. and oh my God, I can't believe his name
Josh
is
Downs,
no, no.
Alec Pierce.
How is his name escaping me?
Which?
Oh, Gilmore. Gilmore. I'm
Oh, yeah.
excited to see how they match up together because I was reading that they have a history and actually Gilmore helped Pittman with his game a lot when he was with the Colts.
Okay.
And I was reading that there's a huge respect there and that they're actually buddies. So I'm interested to see how they match up and if he's on Pittman most of the game.
Yeah, I bet you he'll ask for him. And then other things around the league, it's Mike Zimmer versus Kirk Cousins in the NFC.
Yes, I forgot
That'll
about
be
that.
fascinating. The shove
Are they
boys.
at noon or are they at
I don't know.
afternoon?
Cowboys are usually wiggle their way into 3 o'clock window. I'll have to check.
Yeah, I know
Um,
Packers and Lions are also the 325. So
yeah.
that's another one that we can't wait to see. But is Cam Robinson? Have they said is he starting this week or are they going to do the show?
No, I think he will. We did that show with Bryant McKinney for 4 years, and he kind of always made it sound like, you're wrestling with your guy. You don't have to know a whole lot. And plus, since we all know it's a 10-game rental, you probably want to use all 10 games. I would guess he's playing, but no, they haven't come out and said. I think he's there in the building. I bet you he starts. If not, it would feel a little bittersweet that you just traded for the rental and he can't even play yet, but it wouldn't be
For
the end of the
sure.
world. All right,
Yeah.
Sally, we'll talk to you next Friday. We'll have Josh Fry along with us. He usually joins Wednesday, but for his other job, he'll be up all night with the election. All right, Sally, have a great week, okay?
Okay, you too. See
All
you
right.
Sunday.
Yeah, later. See you at the tailgate.
Yeah.